much. So I'm actually also an alumnus of this university. I did my PhD in atomic physics here ages ago, 35 years ago. And my background is atomic physics. It's industry. I was an R&D engineer and then R&D manager, and then I did some strategy and M&A work at Ericsson. But the last 24 years, I've been in venture capital, investing in deep tech or high tech companies. I don't really know if you remember the term high tech. And presently, I am the CEO of, let's see if I can click. Maybe I need to press some button. Yep. I'm the CEO of Navigare Ventures. We invest in science spin-out, so it's deep tech with a university twist. And we are a part of Wallenberg Investments, which is the asset management of the Wallenberg Foundations, Europe's second largest funder of university research. We invest in science-based companies, mostly because we want to make a buck out of that and to help the Wallenberg Foundations to give out even more money. But we also do it because we think that it's an important place to invest in, to the translation from science to industry and the benefit of mankind. Now, I need to apologize. I am a bit of a Taliban. And what I will be talking about is maybe a follow-on to what Massimo was talking about. I have maybe a less sophisticated sort of spin on that, but I also need to understand Talibans are single-minded. We are focused. We are narrow-minded in hopefully not in too bad sense. Talking about what deep tech is to us and what one invests in, as Massimo was talking about, for the last maybe 100 years, as William Borman, the great economist, has been talking about, is that innovation has superseded price as sort of the main driving force of many industries. And entrepreneurial ventures and innovation, investing in innovation, has become a huge business. And it drives, it fosters industrial growth, etc., etc. And the part of that, and that's what investors do. They invest in entrepreneurs that have some sort of innovation. And if we just maybe actually it clicks, yeah. A lot of that investment is tech or venture investment, usually vertical applications of new technologies. It's been for a deep tech fan, it's been tremendously boring 2 decades when most of the investment was vertical applications of the communications technologies of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, applying those to yet another sector. Now, most of these vertical applications of new technologies is about AI for X. So it's AI for insurance, AI for, well, whatnot. It's not really deep tech. It's simply applying further new technology to yet another area. And it's great for growth. It's not really deep tech. And also, I don't know if you have noticed, where did all the statisticians go? They have completely disappeared from the surface of the earth. Now it's all about data science. It's not statistics, it's data-driven insights, which is a bit strange. I don't know if you remember this old book, How to Lie with Statistics. Now a new edition would have to be labeled How to Lie with the Data-Driven Insights, I guess. But anyhow, it's very much the third of the month together with some application area. It's great investing. It's not a bit boring. Then there is another area, slightly overlapping, which Massimo was talking a bit about, and that's the kind of moonshots, which, to my surprise, are easier to invest to fundraise for than previously. It's usually the integration of several technologies into some sort of new solution. Moonshots are electrically powered planes, or it could be like the voice scooters out on the street. It's really an integration of battery technology, of GPS positioning, of a smartphone user interface, and maybe some machine learning to where to place these gadgets the next day after they have been charged based on some sort of usage patterns. It's usually capital intense, and it mustn't involve too much new technology because it would be prohibitively risky and expensive. No, so what I talk about when I talk about deep tech is the stuff that's actually the bleeding edge stuff that doesn't quite work yet. And it usually comes from university labs. And it can be applied to a vertical, but it usually, and that's one of the attractions for an investor, it can be applied to several verticals. And that's one of the scalabilities of a new technology, which we as investors love. So these generic technologies that are the subject of what we invest in. And so it's really the translation from basic science to applications. And I need to stress that. And this is the belief part now. This is the religion. Is that what does this picture represent? I mean, if you show this picture to someone on the street, they would say that, oh, it's a God forbiddingly as a complex gadget, it's some sort of science. You might think that, oh, it looks expensive. It's probably someone having fun with my taxpayers' money. And I, of course, see it as that's a potential investment opportunity. And to believe that that's an investment opportunity and probably something worth looking into, one has to really take a leap of faith. And it's faith, although I think it's true. But what one needs to believe in is that science is the main driving force behind more or less all innovations. Now, we have forgotten about that. We take science for granted and we take the Industrial Revolution for granted. And we think that innovation is driven by customer demand, or it's driven by entrepreneurs, and it's driven by all kinds of things, customer needs. But what makes innovation possible is the science breakthrough. And let me motivate that a little bit. And I'll spend a couple of minutes on that because it's so critically important. And it's such a tragedy that we have forgotten about all this in our very mature postmodern society. Now, science and innovation are intertwined very much. And it's never the case that a new technology is developed based on a customer need. That simply doesn't happen. Even though there are people that believe that and even write books about it, there are people that actually believe that Maxwell's equations were invented because someone needed an electrical engine to propel a electrical toothbrush. But it's not it has never worked like that. And also what's very interesting is that if you want to improve on something, if you want to make it better material, more efficient, whatever, of course you can do it by excruciating painful experiments, but it won't quite work. You need to do that in the context of scientific understanding. You know, a hardened steel was maybe invented by serendipity. Someone dropped a hot sword in a puddle of water and discovered that it had some new properties. But if you don't understand what makes the steel harder, you can't improve, or you have to do it for 100 years in Damascus to make just the smallest improvement. So you need science to understand what's happening and how to improve it. And of course, people will quite often try to challenge me and say, well, this happened due to serendipity, like the smallpox vaccine. But the smallpox vaccine was found by serendipity, but it wasn't used or improved in another context for 100 years. It took Pasteur and Robert Koch to discover the agents of infection before vaccination could actually be used in yet another context. So even the stuff you find by serendipity, you cannot use it. And you won't find stuff just because you've identified customer need. And customer needs they foster entrepreneurship and creativity, but they do not expose the secrets of nature. So science is and science was what set off the Industrial Revolution. The scientific revolution was a prerequisite for the Industrial Revolution. And my main point here is it's still happening. I will end with that as well. It's still the same pattern. And now investing in science might appear to you as, and to many fellow economists, appears as difficult and irrational. But actually, what I have found over almost 25 years of investing is that scientific brilliance and excellence it mitigates risk. Because if you have really good science, it's hard to copy, it's easier to patent, it's easier to apply to various areas. And also, there's always something to sell. Say that if you invest in trivial tech and you invest in a new perfume or a fashion brand, if you fail, you have failed, there's no. If your science-based faces difficulties, they always have something. They have some sort of solution, have some sort of IPR. And in the worst case, at least you can make an acqui-hire, because there's probably a bunch of very smart people. So it's not very risky. And a final point on this slide is that the cycle between scientific breakthrough and industrial application isn't that long, it's quite short. And the capital need isn't as high as one would imagine. Also, capital need to develop an existing, but going from a 3 nanometer to a 2 nanometer process node in silicon, that's extremely expensive. But to introduce something really new in nonlinear optics isn't that bad. But now, I know that many of you don't believe me. You believe that, oh, this or that technology was created due to some customer need or some serendipitous discovery. But let me bring you back to Italy. Let me bring you back to the grandfather clock, the pendulum clock, which I think is a beautiful example of how it really works and how it almost always works. And the scientific discovery here is the break with Aristotelian physics. After 2,500 years of Aristotelian physics, Galileo Galilei published his A Dialogue of the Two World Systems. And what he describes there, among other things, is that the period of a pendulum and the pendulum string only depends on the mass suspended in the string and the length of the string itself. And if it's dampened by friction, it still has the same period. And so that was a fundamental discovery of basic science, completely useless, and taxpayers would be extremely annoyed if someone financed that. Now, Galileo himself made that into an invention because he realized he was over the blind. He realized that one could maybe time a clock. And this is a drawing made by his son Vincenzo. Vincenzo never made a functioning clock out of that principle, but he at least tried, and it had to be reinvented by Christian Huygens, the Dutch physicist, who made it into an innovation. That's the difference between invention and innovation. Based on basic science, but he actually made a functioning clock, and the year after, he licensed that to Solomon Koster, who made a series of beautiful clocks and sold on the high-end market to princes and kings. And now that history might have ended, and we've forgotten, and now it's so old that we forgot how advanced the pendulum clock is, and on the level of scientific breakthrough it required. But the story doesn't really stop there. And I'm maybe looking at my friends from Vinnova, talking about missions and the direction where you want development to go. And there was a huge mission by the British government in 1714, because 1707 there was the great naval disaster of the Scilly Islands, where I think 4 ships were lost and 2,000 sailors drowned because they couldn't navigate. They could navigate well in the latitude, but not in the east-western longitude. So the government issued a prize, and several technologies competed for that. And the technology that won, after 25 years of development, John Harrison, produced the chronometer that could be used. And actually, his first prototypes, this is the 4th product. It looks like an ordinary watch, but it weighs a couple of kilos. The first prototypes were about as complex as the lab bench I showed you on the previous slide. So it was really a moonshot, a really big project, a very big moonshot answer to this mission. And it had tremendous spin-off effects. The historians of economy tell us that the entire British Industrial Revolution based on textile had as a prerequisite the mechanical skills of the people that built these chronometers for the Royal British Navy. So basic science to missions and to huge societal transformation. And this is not one odd example. This is how it worked in semiconductors, in AI. This is the prototypical model of how the world actually works. So and for me as a science Taliban, it always begins with the basic science and the curiosity driven research. Now, maybe bringing it back to reality. So if this is our credo, this is what we fundamentally believe in, what drives us, is that of course selling that to the capital market is a huge leap. That's a difficult transition. So if you want to invest in that transition from science to technology and societal change, you have to do a number of things. One thing is what many entrepreneurs do not understand. The venture capital community doesn't have entrepreneurs as customers. The entrepreneurs are the raw material, the sort of the iron ore on the conveyor belt. Our customers are the investors, the pension companies, the insurance companies that put faith in us that we can distribute this money on entrepreneurial projects. So of course we have to be very good at communicating with our principals, the people that provide us with the capital. We need to, of course, to understand entrepreneurs, and we need to understand how a startup should be run. And unfortunately, these two have been quiet enough for a VC practice. Many VCs have been extremely successful only doing that. And now it isn't too bad to also understand the market needs, I think. So that you know what the entrepreneur is actually tackling. The next level of decreasing importance when it comes to the capital markets, I don't know how many times I've heard that we don't have any competition. Because entrepreneurs should not care about competition, because otherwise they would just give up, because they would realize how hard it actually is. And then, of course, you might want to understand technology. Here is really the nut of it, and this is not the core competence of most investors, and definitely not the underlying science and the kind of technological alternatives that could emerge from science. And a VC investor does this in the opposite direction. What we do is we try to engage scientists in understanding because science is the only forward-looking radar we ever can use. It's what happens on the lab bench that determines the direction of the future. Then, and this is, of course, you might argue that I'm just following my own career path, because this is what I did. I started off with science. I tried to apply to technology. I then rose through the ranks to be addressing competition. I had to start caring about the market needs, and then start in an entrepreneurial way, and then selling the story to the investor. So this is the bottom-up approach to science investing. That's the important thing, and then you learn all this, and you sell the story to the customer, which is the fund manager. So I'm happy and I'll just give you the last piece of why now. And the last piece is that we do live in tremendously exciting times. It's fabulous. And it was, whereas the year 2000 was pretty boring, now it's exciting because we have so many new technologies. It emerges from mathematicians apply their knowledge to medicine, etc. We have a certain transformational pressure. Automation because labor is expensive, sustainability because it threatens our very existence. And also what's fun is that there are so many open-ended questions in technology. I think that we will be able to build a quantum computer. I have no idea what the dominant design will be. So it's very, very rare in the history of technology that we have so many open-ended technologies. There's so many design alternatives to choose from. So it's fun. So, and of course, as Rasmus said, we apply biological methods to AI to producing stuff. And nanotechnology and materials is being reborn. Since you might think that this is a boring subject, but we actually do not know how solid-state physics works. Like high-temperature semiconductors discovered by IBM in 1987. We can't improve on them because we don't understand how they work from a theoretical point of view. So there's so much happening in material science and fractional charges in two-dimensional materials. It's fantastic. Quantum technologies, well, we manipulate single atoms, single quantized oscillators, single point charges. Quantum systems are really entering, not as a collective phenomenon, as a laser, but single quantized systems are being used. And also the marriage, as I mentioned, between mathematics and life sciences on all levels, on molecular level, on a systems level, modeling the entire organism. So it's never been this fun to be an investor. And just wanted to leave you with the last, reiterating this point. The scientific revolution changed humanity. Of course, it didn't really start, but it started impacting society in the 1600s. And that was what set off the industrial revolution in the 1700s. And as Kant said to a lady, do we asked Immanuel Kant, do we live in the age of enlightenment? Do we in enlightened age? And he said, no matter, but we live in the age of enlightenment. And that's my main point. We live in the age of the scientific revolution, and we live in the age of the industrial revolution. And we think that that's a thing of the past, but it's happening right now at an accelerating pace. And if we can't make ourselves actually invest our pension money into that, we are suckers, we are losers, and the business opportunities created by science are amazing, and they are there on the table, almost unutilized, and that's what I try to make our money of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do you have any questions for Navid? What was the thing in the gadget in the show? What was it?
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah. Can you speak loud?
Yeah, sure. So as a deep tech investor, how are you going to navigate into the AI?
No.
We can't navigate the AI hype, not the big language model side. It's just too expensive, too big. We look at the next thing. It's always like the next breakthrough in AI will be based on yet another mechanism of the human brain being defined. So we don't care about AI of today. We invest in the AI tomorrow, where we try to find what is the biologically inspired mechanism that will elevate AI to yet the next level. It will have something to do with plasticity, with embodied intelligence, with the mechanisms behind abstract concept formation. But the present AI is mainstream technology, and it's just too expensive.
That's it. Now you heard it from there. Thank you so much,